Good morning, all. As we enter into this service, please note that those of you participating via Zoom have been muted by our host, and we ask that in-house participants please remain masked while in the sanctuary. Thank you. Also, be advised that this service is being recorded and, with the exceptions of joys and concerns, will be published online. Finally, if you wish, take a moment to arrange your own chalice at home. You can't depend on your eyes when your imagination is out of focus. Mark Twain. Janet will light our chalice this morning in the sanctuary. And I invite you to light your own chalice and place it where it can be seen by all of us. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lit the flame within us and the community. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to leave yourselves muted and our in-house participants to remain masked. However, we do want you and whoever's with you to sing with Mary and Jan as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. Please stand if you are able and sing the opening hymn, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, number 8.
Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the skies or in the forest sounds your cry.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist community of Cambria. We're glad you've joined us today. Our UUCC sanctuary sits on land which the Salinan and Chumash indigenous peoples historically inhabited. We honor their contribution to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to gather as a faith community on their unceded ancestral lands. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation run by the democratic process. We invite speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest to our community that connect with the UU7 principles. Today's service centers around the third principle. We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Spiritual growth isn't about a vertical ascent to heaven, but about growth in every dimension at once. It's spirituality in 3D. Growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its volume, its capacity, its size. We need souls that can take in the world in all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. And we need souls that can love and be in relationship with all this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. My name is Mary Ann Anderson, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning. If you are not on the mailing list, please visit the UUCC website at www.uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. And please check out What's Happening, a weekly e-blast sent to all members and friends. This is a great way to keep up with the latest news in this community. And a reminder, if you wish to see this or any of the past Zoom services again, recordings of these services can be found on the UUCC website and on Facebook as well. The membership committee invites non-members to consider joining our community. Please contact a director or person of the board if you're interested. Thank you. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise we make and aspire to. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any short announcements that would be of interest to our UU community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. For any items that need more explanation, please call or email the person after the service to be respectful of everyone's time. So if you do have an announcement, please raise your hand. When Randy or I call your name, please stand or unmute yourself and then speak. And I believe in the sanctuary, Judy has an announcement.
I just wanted to let everyone know that 2 new books have been added to the library that may be of interest. This one is called A Greener Faith, Religious Environmentalism and Our Planet's Future. I thought it was rather timely when I saw it. And we've also got a new addition to our Henry David Thoreau growing library, his Natural History Essays.
Natural History Essays.
Yeah,
by
so
Thoreau. Thank you, Judy.
we can come down.
So these 2
check
new
them
books
out.
can be found in our library.
Right, that's right.
Thank you, Judy. Any more announcements from the sanctuary? Okay, it's over to our, is it Diane today?
No, it's Randy.
Oh, Randy, sorry.
Yes. Okay, there are no hands showing, so back to you.
All right. Well, next week, Reverend Lynn Hopkins from the UU Fellowship of Montgomery, Alabama, will present He Called Me Brother, Lessons from Death Row. We do take this time now to celebrate all of those who are having a birthday this month. Birthdays are special, a day when we celebrate your entry into this world and honor your existence. If you have a birthday this month, please raise your hand. When Randy or I call your name, please unmute yourself and reveal your special date. And I know that Jan had a birthday this month.
I did already. It was Wednesday, and Diane did too. She's not here. Hers is June 2nd.
June
Or
2nd.
3rd.
Triva.
June 19th.
June 19th.
June's the best.
June's the best.
Come here. Geminis.
Yeah,
We love June. Wait, no, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't.
that's Triva, our in-house Gemini. Any birthdays out there in Zoom land?
Nobody's admitting to it.
Okay, this birthday candle honors all the friends and family members of this community who are also celebrating birthdays this month. Thank you, Mary. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as a part of your personal life, along with expressions of gratitude and acknowledgement. But please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. This is a time of community building. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and sorrows which may have gone unspoken today, but are deeply felt in this community. The first reading is an excerpt from How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci by Michael Gelb, an American nonfiction author, executive coach, and management consultant. While championing rigor, attention to detail, logic, mathematics, and intense practical analysis, Leonardo also urged his students to awaken the power of imagination in what then was an unprecedented way, offering what he called a new and speculative idea, which, although it may seem trivial and almost laughable, is nonetheless of great value in quickening the spirit of invention. He urged students to stare at stones, smoke, embers, clouds, and mud, and cultivate their ability in these mundane forms, the likeness of the divine landscapes and an infinity of things. Such insight, he writes, comes about as does the sound of bells, in whose clanging you may discover every name and word that you can imagine. This instruction represents more than just advice to stimulate an artist's imagination. It is a breakthrough in the evolution of human thought. Da Vinci gave birth to a tradition that resulted in the modern discipline of brainstorming. Prior to Da Vinci, the concept of creative thinking as an intellectual discipline did not exist. Let us now join in a time of meditation, of prayer, and of silence. Let us seek the quiet and the calm, laying aside our struggles. And in the silence, may there be a reverence in our hearts, a thankfulness within our spirit, and a deepened understanding of the meaning of our lives. Let us enter into the stillness. quiet your active mind, soothe your troubled heart, connect with your incorporeal soul, ignite your dormant spirit, reach beyond your essence to find your inner peace. The second reading is an excerpt from Callings, Finding and Following an Authentic Life by Greg Levoy, an American author and speaker. Passion is what we are most deeply curious about, most hungry for, and will most hate to lose in life. It is the most desperate wish we need to yell down the well of our lives. It is whatever we pursue merely for its own sake, what we study when there are no tests to take, what we create, though no one may ever see it. It makes us forget that the sun rose and set, that we have bodily functions and personal relations that could use a little tending. It is what we'd do if we weren't worried about consequences, about money, about making anybody happy but ourselves. It is whatever we could be tempted to sell our souls for in order to have 100 extra years just to devote to it. Whatever fills us with the feeling poet Anne Sexton was referring to when she said, "When I'm writing, I know I'm doing the thing I was born to do." It is what matters most, whether we're doing it or not. Please stand if you can and sing All Our Architects, number 288. Today's sermon is titled Traveling Through Time in Your Mind and Imagination, to be delivered by John Tamiazzo. John Tamiazzo, PhD, taught for Santa Barbara City College adult education for over 20 years, offering a variety of psychology classes, health and wellness workshops, and love and intimacy seminars. He taught for the UCSB Community Education Counseling Certification Program for 15 years, counseling skills, theories of counseling, and psychotherapy. His professional background includes positions as program director for 3 community mental health and research centers in Southern California, and executive director for 2 brain injury treatment centers on the Central Coast. Jody House Brain Injury Center in Santa Barbara and the Brain Injury Center in Ventura County. John moved to Sedona, Arizona in 2012 to be the executive director for Sedona Community Center. This organization provided over 42,000 meals a year to low-income and disabled adults. In addition, John was a weekly columnist for the Sedona Red Rock News. He is currently executive director with Showers of Blessing Santa Barbara that provides mobile hot showers, forensic hygienic care, fosters hygienic care, provides clothing, sleeping bags, and food to those living on the street or in their cars. He is the author of 2 self-help books, Returning to the Land of Oz and Love and Be Loved. John.
Good morning. I'm going to start with a story about Paul McCartney, who wrote a song called Hey Jude in the late 60s. And that song was written for Julian, who they called Jules, because John Lennon was divorcing Cynthia and leaving home to go off with Yoko Ono. And Julian was very depressed. Paul took him under his wing, spent lots of time with him, and wrote this song for him to try to lift his spirits. And there's some lyrics in there that I'm sure we all remember. Take a sad song and make it better. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about 5 or 6 individuals who took a sad song and they made it much, much better. That's what my work has been for my life, is to help people with their sad songs, their stories, the things about their lives that they wanted to change and the improvements that they wanted to make. I'm going to talk about a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, a musician and composer, Sergei Rachmaninoff, a philanthropist of grand proportions, Alfred Nobel, an Olympic gold medalist, Laura Wilkinson, and a nurse extraordinaire, Cheryl Guthrie, who I had the pleasure of working with in Santa Barbara. I want to tell you what happened with these individuals and why I think the changes that they made are so important for all of us today. But first, I'm going to give a few quotes. One of them by my favorite quoters is always Albert Einstein, who said, "Imagination is everything. It's the preview of life's coming attractions. Imagination is more important than knowledge because knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress and gives birth to evolution." Then Carl Sagan, the astrophysicist and astrobiologist, said, "Imagination will carry us to worlds that never were. Without it, we go nowhere." Nikola Tesla, who is in the limelight today because of the Tesla cars. He was an electrical engineer, inventor, futurist in the 1880s, 1890s. And he said, "Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs. The future is mine." And then one last one, George Lucas, filmmaker. "You can't do it unless you imagine it." I was watching an interview about 2 months ago. Oprah Winfrey was interviewing it was about a year ago because he passed away in January 2022. Thich Nhat Hanh, the father of mindfulness, spiritual leader, author of over 100 books. And Oprah was asking him some really great questions about his life, about how he became who he became. And he said when he was 7 years old, he saw a picture of Buddha in a Buddhist magazine. And he said that the countenance, the peacefulness, the love that exuded, that he felt from that picture, stayed in his mind for his entire life. And he said in that moment, "I want to be that." So in future time, because our mind is so fertile and our imagination is so vivid, he saw himself being like Buddha. And so he entered the monastery. He became a Buddhist monk when he was 16. And she asked him a question about his meditation. And she says, "Do you meditate every day?" And he said, I meditate every moment. That's why we call him the father of the mindfulness movement, because in the mindfulness movement, we literally, in everything we see and everything we do, we are presently engaged in the most wonderful way, in the most uplifting way. Then we have Sergei Rachmaninoff, Russian composer and pianist. Why did I choose him? Well, he was a piano prodigy, a composer at a very young age. He was only 16, 17 years old, and he had already composed major pieces. He was a big man, 6'6", had gigantic hands. He was able to cover more keys on the piano than any other pianist in history because of the size of his hands. And that's probably the reason why very few people can play his music, because he had an amazing range. So in 1890, and you're agreeing, yes? I'm going to tell you just a quick story about that. My dad was a pianist, and he played in bars and clubs in Chicago and New Orleans for 55 years. And so when he was going to school to study piano in the institute, he started dating my mom, and she was also playing piano. And so he says, well, what are you going to play? And she says, I'm playing Rachmaninoff. So he told her, you can't play Rachmaninoff. She says, well, just watch me. And she performed, I think it was Piano Concerto number 3, Rachmaninoff. She did it at the recital. She had to graduate to perform that piece, and she did it beautifully. He was so proud. So 1892, Piano Concerto number 1's composed, hugely successful. 1897, Symphony, huge failure. Oh my goodness, they panned this. The people didn't like it. The critics didn't like it. Other composers, musicians didn't like it. He went into a depression for 3 years because of that. He could not even consider composing. He didn't want to be in the public's eye because it was all over the papers. Rachmaninoff bombs. So he decided to try to make a living giving piano lessons. He hated giving piano lessons, but he did it. His family said, Sergei, there's a gentleman named Dr. Dahl who specializes in hypnosis. I think you should go see him. So for 2 years, Rachmaninoff met with Dr. Dahl, according to everything I read, every day, because he wanted to get this guy back composing again, because he knew he was a superstar. He worked with him on sleep, mood, appetite, and regaining his passion for composition. So, in the summer of 1900, Rachmaninoff began work on Piano Concerto number 2. I don't know if you've ever heard Piano Concerto number 2, but it is incredible. It's probably the greatest piano concerto ever composed. And they had the Rhapsody was in the movie Somewhere in Time. If you've seen the movie Somewhere in Time, you know how to play that little piece from the Rhapsody. So here's what they worked on. I will start to compose a concerto. I will work with the greatest of ease. The concerto will be of excellent quality, and the critics and the public will cheer. So he saw this in future time. Present time working on it, future time great success. October 1901, world premiere, Piano Concerto number 2, super success. Heralded as the greatest piano concerto ever composed. And he was on his way. Now, while traveling through Bath, England in 1980, Bath is over on the west side of England, I found myself going into a museum, and I'm walking around looking at the art, and I'm looking at the different statues and things, and all of a sudden I see this grand piano in the distance. We always had a baby grand in our house, but this stretched grand piano was magnificent. And so the closer I got to the piano, the more magnetism I felt being pulled towards it. And it turned out it was Rachmaninoff's piano that he played and traveled from 1939, 1940 in Europe. He had this piano taken to all these different places. And so I just ran my fingers along the keys because back then you could do things like that. Today you can't do things like that. Alfred Nobel. What do we know Alfred Nobel for? The Nobel Prizes. Well, the truth is Alfred Nobel was a chemist. And one day he mixed two substances together that had never been mixed before. And as a result, he discovered dynamite. Within 10 years, dynamite factories were in 20 countries. He became the wealthiest man in the world. But his vision was that dynamite would move waterways to irrigate, and it would help with coal production, finding precious metals. He never even considered that people would use it to blow themselves up. It's not funny, but he never realized that. He was shocked. But it didn't stop him from selling his dynamite. Well, in the late 1880s, his brother died, and the French newspaper mistakenly thought it was Alfred Nobel, so they put him in the paper and called him the Angel of Death. He's one of the few people in history who read his own obituary. So he reads about what an awful person he is and all the people who died because of his invention. And he thought, I can't die with this legacy. So he decided, I'm going to give all my money and we're going to award $1 million to the person who has made the greatest discoveries in physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and world peace. He died in 1896. The Nobel Prizes started in 1901. And the first Nobel Prize went to Jean-Henri Dunant of Switzerland, who founded the Red Cross movement. The International Red Cross has 100 million volunteers today, members and staff worldwide. Today, and they organized it so well financially that they never have run out of money. It's just so well invested. So he looked back at his life and he looked at his future and he said, I'm going to do something different. This is what people are going to remember me for. 120 years later, the Nobel Prizes are still regarded as the most prestigious awards in the world. Now, how prestigious are the Nobel Prizes? Here are some of the past winners. Ernest Hemingway, Hermann Hesse, T.S. Eliot, Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King Jr., Marie Curie, Mother Teresa, Pearl Buck, and Elizabeth Blackburn. Who the heck is Elizabeth Blackburn? Well, she discovered, she's a biochemist, and she discovered how cellular chromosomes are protected by telomeres and enzymes. So Nobel Prizes are given to absolutely brilliant people. And so here's a man who changed his life. And we've got Laura Wilkinson, international diving champion. Well, in the year 2000, I was watching the Olympics. Laura Wilkinson is in 5th place diving, and the 2 Chinese divers are number 1 and number 2. 6 months prior to the games, while she was practicing a dive, preparing for the Olympics, she fractured a bone in her left foot and 3 broken bones in her right foot. They said, you're going to need surgery. She says, no, let's put a cast on it. I'm going to use my imagery work. A lot of Olympic athletes do imagery work. As a matter of fact, a lot of them, the idea is you prepare for your sport physically half the time. You prepare for your sport in your imagination the other half of the time, because your brain doesn't know the difference if you're actually running or you're imagining you're running. If you use all your senses as part of the imagery work, same brain chemicals are released. If you're diving, the brain doesn't know the difference if you're actually diving in the water or if you're diving in your imagination. So she dove in her imagination perfectly over and over and over for the 6 months leading up to the trials. Well, she found herself in 5th place when I was watching it. She just couldn't seem to dive the way she wanted to dive. And then she moved down to 8th place. And then when they were interviewing her after she won the gold, they asked her, how did you move up from 8th place to 1st place to win the gold medal? This is remarkable. She says, I got back to and used my visualization training. I felt myself diving perfectly into the water, perfect form. I heard the yell of the crowd. I felt myself, my whole form, as I was moving through the air. Perfect. She is she's the only person in the history of diving who's won 2-time NCAA championships. She's won the 2000 Olympic gold medal for 10-meter platform. She won the 2004 World Cup and the 2005 World Championships, the only woman in history to win all 3 world titles in platform diving. So with her imagery techniques, using her mind and imagination, she could see herself in present, feel herself in present time, see herself in future time, doing exactly what she wanted to do. And she focused on the healing of her feet. She saw the healing process occurring, all the natural stages that the foot would go through as it was healing. I remember a client came to see me in Santa Barbara who fell off of a horse, and the horse rolled over her. And because I was wondering, why is she late for the appointment? So I call her and said, where are you? She said, oh, John, I'm in bed. She says, the horse rolled over me and it smashed my nose and I got a little cast on my nose. I said, are you up for me to come over and work with you? She says, sure. So that's exactly what we worked on. We worked on how this nose was going to heal very quickly. She saw right now what she had is everything was black and blue. So I says, what you got to do is you got to see it go through the stages of healing. Black and blue starts turning lighter. It turns gray, forms a little bit of pink, moves into pink. You're healed. Let's do this in your mind. So we worked on it for about 2 hours. She got it. She was working on it every day. She went to the doctor. The doctor said, whatever you're doing, you're healing amazingly quickly. Just keep on doing that. And then for my last person, we have Cheryl Guthrie. Who in the heck is Cheryl Guthrie? Well, Cheryl Guthrie is a nurse who came to one of my classes at Santa Barbara City College. I had a big class, 55 professionals, marriage and family therapists. We had a few doctors there, psychologists, social workers, and nurses and nurse practitioners. And they were learning medical hypnosis techniques. Cheryl was in the audience. It was a 10-week course, 2 hours once a week. And they had to take a test, and most of them got certified. I had assistants going around making sure they were learning how to do the processes. So Cheryl calls and says, John, I need help. I've had over 20 jaw surgeries because I was born with this deformed jaw. The surgery started when I was a little girl. And now I'm 55. I got to have one more surgery, and this is a big one. The surgery's totally knocked me out for months. It's excruciating pain, a lot of bleeding. You said in your class that you could help me with all those things. You said, you could help me. I would have minimal bleeding. You said if you worked with people, they could. She says, will you do that with me? And I said, sure. I says, but you got to believe it. I says, it's just a matter of me doing this. You have to really believe that you can do this. I says, tell me what you want. She says, I want no bleeding. I says, well, you can't have no bleeding. I says, but you can have minimal bleeding, just enough to cleanse the area. She says, I don't want any pain. Well, you can't have no pain. So I says, but you can have minimal pain, just enough to know that the healing is occurring. And how about swelling? I says, what would you like to have regarding swelling? She says, I like to have so little swelling that people don't even know that I had the surgery. I says, now, if you had all those things, would you be satisfied? She says, absolutely. Okay, so we worked on this for 2 appointments. And the last time I saw her was on Saturday. She was supposed to have the surgery the following Thursday and then come the next Saturday if she could, so we could see what happened. She comes to the office, saunters in, sits down, she's crosses legs, we're talking. I said, did you not have the surgery? She says, oh no, I had the surgery. She says, it went exactly like we spoke of. She says, I had minimal swelling, as you can see. The pain was minimal bleeding. She says, I did all the processes. She says, I want to work more with you to get advanced certification, because as a nurse, this is what I want to do with my life. So Cheryl in Santa Barbara works with women who are having all kinds of variety of different surgeries, and she helps them get through the process using their mind and imagination in the process of healing. She knows how to go back in time. And when she goes back in time, when we were working together, what she experienced is painful, because back in time, it didn't work. The surgery worked, but the results were very difficult to get through. So we had to reframe that. We had to tell her, either you can go back in time and we can reframe everything so those things that occurred actually didn't occur. And we can also, or you can go back in time and we can help you to not even see and feel what went on there anymore, because you're so engaged in present time and in future time of what's going to happen. What would work better for you? She says, I'd rather be engaged in present time and future time. And that's exactly what she did. There's one story I want to tell you before I sign off today. 1988, my neighbor and her friend asked me to come to a hypnosis training with them, which was going to be in Anaheim. And there was a guy who was teaching this named Stephen Gilligan. It was a 4-day training because I didn't know anything about hypnosis at that time. And so she said, come with us, John, I think you'd like it. Julie's a marriage and family therapist. Herb is a clinical psychologist. So we drive down to Anaheim, and this guy, Stephen Gilligan, was a student of Milton Erickson, not Eric Erickson, but Milton Erickson. Milton Erickson is a psychiatrist, regarded as the founder of medical hypnosis. Well, after about 2 hours, I am totally excited about this work. And I go, wow, Julie, Herb, thank you. I want to do this. I was like, Thich Nhat Hanh, I want to do this. I want to be like Stephen Gilligan. Well, Stephen told a story that day about a woman that the social services department could not help. They would go visit her. She had agoraphobia, afraid to leave the house. And it was so severe that they had to bring food to her. They had to bring medical care to her. But she was healthy enough that she could go out, but she just would not go out. And nobody could seem to help this woman. So Milton Erickson was known for helping people who nobody else could help. That's the kind of referrals he got from other clinicians. So he goes into her home, and think about this. Entrance, the entrance to the home. Well, if you look at the word, it's in trance, E-N trance. So the idea of going to an office, say my office, is to help the person to go into a trance as they're coming through the door, because that's what it is. It's an entrance. A trance is, we'll say, is a enter into a positive state of mind. It's a spell, a dream, a hypnotic state, an experience of rapture. We've all been in trances like this before. Mesmerized, captivating. Milton had this amazing ability to notice things that nobody else noticed. So he goes in to see this woman, and she's a mess. She looks a mess, hasn't taken a bath, her clothes are untidy. There's junk everywhere. But he notices there's a African violet plant flourishing in the window. So his question was, how could a woman who looks like this and lives like this grow a plant like that? All of his work with her was about the plant, because he saw that if I could get her engaged in what she does with plants, I bet I can get this woman out of the house. In their work together, he helped her become so inspired to propagate African violet plants, to take them to hospital patients, to take them to homes where people were living. And when I heard that story, I thought, wow, that's what work is about as a therapist. You got to pay attention to things that the person isn't paying attention to, and to things that nobody else is paying attention to. So years later, when this woman died, they referred to her as the African Violet Queen, who brought smiles to the faces of hundreds of people. So in his work, Milton turned her into a superstar. This work in medical hypnosis is life-changing. It's quick work. It's short-term therapy. Work with people 3 times, 5 times. It's rare that you work with people for a couple of months. I've taken this work all through Canada, from coast to coast, been to 30 different cities in Canada: Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Victoria, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, and then 3 times to Norway. They invited me 3 times, working with medical doctors, working at the university in Trondheim, all through California. Did this over about a 20-year period. I believe in the work. So, use your mind, use your imagination. Anything can be accomplished, but you gotta believe it, and you gotta bring in all 5 senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. All the senses have to be involved, and they have to be engaged in the process when you're using your imagery work to really make the work successful. Well, thank you.
Now I have that song in my head. Da, 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 dee. I think it's the melody. Oh my gosh.
From Rachmaninoff?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Somewhere in Time, one of my favorite movies. Watch out for those pennies in your pocket, folks. Oh, thank you, John, very much. The morning offering will now be given and received. Please remember that we are a self-sustaining congregation and provide all financial resources for our many ministries. We recognize the spiritual value of generosity and invite you to participate. If you are viewing this service remotely, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you.
The offering music today, do I have the mic, Randy?
Yes.
Is Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka, and it's by Leslie Bricusse and Anthony Newley. The lyrics, in case you don't remember, Gene Wilder sang it, right? Yeah. Oh, I love Gene Wilder. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What you'll see will defy explanation. And then the last verse: there's no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living here, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
Our thanks for all gifts given and received for the work of this community. Please stand if you are able and sing the closing hymn. Oh, I'm sorry. Now let us sing the doxology. I got carried away. From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every Now, please stand if you are able and sing the closing hymn, Imagine by John Lennon. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Thank you, Mary and Jan. That song always gets to me. Imagine. The flame of this chalice will no longer burn today, but the light of the flame within our hearts continues to shine brightly, illuminating the love felt in our community. Please extinguish your chalice at home now. After the benediction, we encourage you to stay for questions and comments. Randy or I will call on you when you raise your hand. John?
Do I wait for questions? No, benediction. Oh, benediction. Do I have a benediction?
Some finishing words.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was rather interesting that we sang Imagine by John Lennon, and I started out with Paul McCartney writing a song for John Lennon's son, Julian, how it all came to tie together just like that. I think life is like that. Even when we're in doubt about things, somehow it all comes full circle and things get tidied up and loose ends get tied up and things come out of the blue. I really am a big believer in things coming out of the blue, and there we have it on the screen. and bringing the change, the opportunity, the new direction we're supposed to be going. If we have faith, if we believe, and believe in possibilities.